Hello and welcome to Brightcore English. This is a channel where we'll be learning English. I'll be taking you through some of the grammatical concepts in the English language, and as such will help you to become a fluent and confident speaker of the English language. I am your tutor, Silas Brightcore. Now in this episode we are going to look at verbs, and the verbs are a very big area that we cannot cover at once, but we are going to look at it bit by bit. So in this case here we are going to look at the inflected verbs. We are going to look at the inflected verbs. The reason why I'm breaking as inflected, because we have got types. We have got the auxiliary and we also have the ordinary verbs. So these ordinary verbs are those which we are going to discuss here. We call them the ordinary verbs or the main verbs, and we also have another category known as the auxiliary verbs, which we shall look much later. But maybe just a quick one, you have to know that the auxiliary verbs, as the name suggests, they help the main verb which you want to discuss right now in order to make the sensible sentences. Okay? So in this case here, I want to look at the inflected verbs. So first, let us start with the definition of the word verb. What is a verb, especially when you're talking about ordinary verb? So a verb is, actually it is derived from Latin word verbum, meaning the word. Yeah, so the word. When I put it loosely, the very common definition that most people are fond of, or learners are fond of, they normally say the verb is a doing word, or it is a word of action. So this word of actions, this simply means that particular English word, when you are told, you are able to perform a particular task, and that's why we call it a doing word or a word of action. But it takes different forms, as we are going to look at it ahead, and therefore I want us to be very, very keen so that we get the differences here. Now, we want to measure on these ordinary verbs, and we have said that the verb is any word of action. For example, a word like sing, sit, jump, play, kick, sleep, and any other. So any word that you are told, any word that you can perform and give an action whenever you hear it, we call it a verb. We call it a verb. Now, next, I want us to look at the forms, because ordinary verbs, they take different forms. And which are the forms that can be taken by the ordinary verb? An ordinary verb can take 4 forms, or precisely 3 forms. And this one, the present form, which is also known as the infinitive. Infinitive is the basic form of a verb. So we have the present form, we have the past form, and we also have the participle form. So under this participle form, this is where we also have it is divided into 2. That's where we have the present participle and also the past participle. So there are 4 forms of verbs. That is the present, the past, and participle, whereby the participle we have present participle and the present participle. Now let us look at them into details. What do we mean by present, past participle, and the present participle? These are the ways through which we can, that's why we're talking about inflected. That is the inflection we are talking about. The changes that a verb can take depending on the context in which it is used, especially in order to express the time or the tenses, as we shall look ahead. Now, these 4 forms, which we call the inflection, or how a verb can be conjugated, what is called the conjugation, meaning the inflection of a verb, the changing of the forms of the verb in order to suit a particular word, a particular context in which it is used. Take, for example, a word like come. Come is in present form. The past form will be came, and then the past participle will now be come, and then the present participle is coming. Take a word like play. That is the present form, also known as the infinitive. The past form will become played, the past participle will also become played, and then the present participle will become playing. So if you look at it very keenly there, you find that the present participle will simply add ing to the base form of the verb. That one is very easy. So the present form is very easy. You simply add ing, the ing form. So when you add the ing form to the base word or the base verb known as the infinitive, now we say that verb is in which form? It is in present participle form. So, having known these, that there are 4 forms, and you'll find that different verbs will always take different versions as far as these forms are concerned. But this one brings us now to what we call the categories now. From the forms of verbs, if you look at the way they are inflected, it brings us down to now the categories. And we found we have 2 categories of verbs. The two categories of verbs that we have include regular verbs and irregular verbs. So the regular verbs, these are those verbs which are, if you look at their past and their past participle forms, they take ed or d. You add ed or d. For example, word like play, the past form will be played. We add ed. If you take a word like complete, which ends in e, the past form will be played. So look at the past and past participle form. We add ed or the d. We say that verb is in which form? It is in past participle form. But those which do not take ed or d in their past and past participle form, we call them irregular verbs. We call them irregular verbs. Therefore, if I may take you through the recap of what we've just learned, we realize that a verb is a word of action, and we say that a verb can take different forms, which we call the inflection, and this inflection will give us the four forms, that is the present, the past participle, and the present participle. And from the forms, we learned that we can have the two categories, the regular and irregular verbs. And we've said the regular verbs, they take ed or the d in their past and past participle forms, and the irregular ones, they don't take such. Otherwise, in the next episode, we are going to look at the irregular verbs into details. Otherwise, if you know you've not subscribed to this channel, make sure that you do so by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your colleagues. Otherwise, see you next time. Bye-bye.